Good day, Deep Word family. Welcome to day 172 of our Bible study review. Today we're going through chapters 44 through 45 of the book of Ezekiel. Let's just open up and start reading from verse 1 of chapter 44. It says, "Then he brought me back to the gate of the outer sanctuary, which faces east, and it was shut. And Yahweh said to me, This gate will be shut. It shall not be opened, and no man shall enter by it, because Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel, has entered by it. Therefore it shall be shut. As for the prince, he shall sit in it as prince to eat the bread before Yahweh. He shall enter by way of the vestibule of the gate and shall go out the same way." So I'm just going to pause for a moment. Now, the presence of Yahweh enters by the way of the east gate, and he says after this it will be shut. What does this mean? It means once his glory enters into the temple, his glory will not leave. His glory will always remain there. All right? And the prince, whoever this prince may be, is able to enter by the vestibule, by the gate, and that's where he is to eat the holy bread before Yahweh. Now, many have speculated and believe that this prince is actually David, King David, who is resurrected, right? And he eats this holy bread. And the bread we know represents our Messiah. He is the bread of life. This is why some people don't believe that this is the Messiah himself. All right, but let's keep reading. It says, "Then he brought me by way of the north gate before the temple. And I looked, and the glory of Yahweh filled the house of Yahweh, and I fell upon my face. Then Yahweh said to me, Son of man, mark well and see with your eyes and hear with your ears all that I say to you concerning all of the ordinances of the house of Yahweh and all of its laws. And mark well those who may enter the house with all of its exits and sanctuary. You shall say to the rebellious, even to the house of Israel, Thus says the Adon Yahweh, O house of Israel, let your abominations suffice. You brought foreigners into my sanctuary, uncircumcised in heart and uncircumcised in flesh, to be in my sanctuary and even to pollute it, even my house, when you offered my food, the fat and the blood. For they have broken my covenant because of all of your abominations. You have not kept the charge of my holy things, but you have set foreigners to keep charge of my sanctuary. Thus says the Adon Yahweh, no foreigner, uncircumcised in heart, nor of the flesh, shall enter into my sanctuary of any foreigner who is with you among the sons of Israel." And so, Deep in Word family, I want to present to you another perspective, another viewpoint, which I have spoken to many, and they believe this way, okay? So many believe that actually during the beginning portion of the millennial reign, that our Heavenly Father and the Messiah, they are dealing with those who have been resurrected from David's time, since they believe that this prince is actually David. And they're also dealing with unbelieving Jews who are alive, right, and who enter into the millennial reign with natural bodies, right? They see who he is at the very end and that the Father has mercy on them to enter into the millennial reign with natural bodies. And this is the possibility for why you see certain animal sacrifices. It's their way of practicing these things out so that they know who this was about the entire time. Now, I'm not saying that is what this is, but I am just presenting to you, right, another viewpoint, because I honestly do not understand the depths of what Ezekiel is talking about, the depths of this temple, the depths of these sacrifices. It does not all make sense to me. I will not tell you that I have 100% clarity on this right here. But that is a viewpoint of why you see a Levitical priesthood, yet in the back of the book in Revelation, we know that our Messiah is our high priest, and he is called Melchizedek, right? The priesthood is under the order of Melchizedek. And so this is why there's a point of contention of this being the millennial temple. Now, whether this is or it isn't, this is a speculation of if it is the millennial temple, then this is why we see this at the very beginning. I will leave a couple articles down below so that you will see the body of Messiah is completely torn. No one is 100% in agreement on what this all means. All right. So if this is hurting your head, understand that it is hurting mine as well. I don't know for sure what it all means. But we're not just going to skip over Ezekiel, right? If all we do is speculate, let us speculate together. Let's keep reading in verse 10 of chapter 44. It says, "But the Levites who have gone far from me when Israel went astray, who went astray from me after their idols, they shall bear their punishment of their iniquity." And so that's what I was speaking of. Maybe this is, those who are bearing their shame and actually practicing these things out during the millennial reign until they get it right, until they understand how this all pointed to Messiah. All right, but let's keep reading. Verse 11, "Yet they shall be ministers in my sanctuary, having charge at the gate of the house, ministering to the house. They shall slay the burnt offering and the sacrifice for the people, and they shall stand before them to minister to them, because they ministered to them before their idols and caused the house of Israel to fall into iniquity. Therefore I have lifted up my hand against them, says the Adon Yahuwah. They shall bear their punishment of their iniquity. They shall not come near me to do the office of a priest to me, nor to come near any of my holy things in the most holy place, but they shall bear their shame and their abominations which they have committed. But I will make them keepers in the charge of the temple for all of its service and for all that shall be done in it. But the Levitical priests, the sons of Zadok, who kept the charge of my sanctuary, when the sons of Israel went astray from me, they shall come near to me to minister to me, and they shall stand before me to offer me the fat and the blood, says the Adon Yahuwah. They shall enter my sanctuary, and they shall come near to my table to minister to me, and they shall keep my charge. It shall come to pass that when they enter the gates of the inner court, they shall be clothed with linen garments. No wool shall come upon them while they minister in the gates of the inner court and within. They shall have linen turbans on their heads. And they shall have linen breeches on their loins. They shall not gird themselves with anything that causes them to sweat. When they go out in the outer court, even in the outer court to the people, they shall put off their garments in which they ministered and lay them on the holy chambers, and they shall put on other garments. They shall not sanctify the people with their garments. So again, when they're ministering unto Yahuwah, they are to have on these pure linen garments on. And when they go to deal with the people, they don't wear the same garments. They have to take off that garment and put on a different garment when they are ministering unto people. Verse 20, "Nor shall they shave their heads, nor suffer their locks to grow long. They shall only trim their hair on their heads. Nor shall any priest drink wine when they enter into the inner court. Nor shall they take for their wives a widow, nor her who has been put away. But they shall take maidens of the seed of the house of Israel. They shall teach my people the difference between the holy and the profane, and cause them to discern between the clean and the unclean." Now again, this is why there is this speculation and this issue about this being the millennial temple, right? Because we see a Levitical priesthood for one, but we also see that they are given in marriage, right? And those who are under Messiah's priesthood, our bodies will be changed. We will no longer be married to who we're married to, right? My husband now in the flesh will not be my husband anymore. I won't be able to come together with him like that because Messiah will be my husband. That's who I am joined to at that time. All right. So those whose bodies are changed in the moment, in the twinkling of an eye, we are not given in marriage anymore. So this is pointing to those who still have natural bodies who enter into the millennial reign, because this definitely is not us. This is also why many reject this from being the millennial temple altogether, because it doesn't perfectly fit with a Melchizedek priesthood under the Messiah, right? And we see a Levitical priesthood. It seems to contradict what we see in the book of Hebrews, right? So this is a very complex, perplexing book. So some believe altogether that this is not the millennial temple. They believe that this was just a contractual thing between those who were in the Babylonian exile, right? We know from the previous chapters that we read, Ezekiel was supposed to show this to them, right? And if they repented of their ways, then Ezekiel was to show them the pattern of this new glorious temple. And this temple has not been seen yet. It was not Solomon's temple, and it was not the second temple period temple, right? This has not been seen before. So many are having lots of trouble with what Ezekiel is presenting here. And I myself am included in that group, all right? I'm not making any statements about what all of this means. These are just possibilities, all right? Let's keep reading in verse 24 of chapter 44. It says, in controversy they shall stand in judgment, and they shall judge it according to my judgments, and they shall keep my laws and my statutes and all of my assemblies, and they shall hallow my Sabbaths. They shall not go to a dead person to defile themselves, but for father or for mother or son or for daughter or brother or for sister that has no husband, they shall defile themselves. Now we know during the millennial reign, there will be flesh and blood who repopulate the earth. And now this could possibly be some of the natural branches, right, who realize after they build that third temple in Jerusalem, right, that was not for the true Messiah. And so they possibly enter into the millennial reign with natural bodies. And they will have the possibility of living up to the 1,000 years during the millennial reign. And it's based off of whether or not they keep his charges and his statutes. One thing we know for sure, y'all, Messiah, he went on that cross, and what he did once. He's not doing it again. He is not going to suffer and sacrifice himself again. The lamb portion is done. And when he comes back on the scene, it will be the lion portion. He came to finish his work to be the sacrificial lamb. And then he's going to finish his work as the lion from the tribe of Judah. All right? And so that's why many people have issues with this being the millennial temple. And I completely understand. I'm not making any statements whatsoever about what this is for sure. All right, let's get back to the text. Now, it was talking about, those who have natural bodies, and if one of their relatives die, right, it says they're not to defile themselves with dead bodies, right, because this is a priest. A priest is not to defile himself or touch anything dead because he's ministering to the living God, all right? There will be flesh and blood that repopulate the earth, and some of them will die during the millennial reign. We read this in Isaiah, right? And so someone who dies at 100 years old will be considered a child, right? And the reason why someone dies during the millennial reign, most likely it is because they are rebellious. It is likely because they are transgressing the Torah. They are rebelling against Messiah. And if you're rebelling against Messiah, you're rebelling against the Father. All right, so they're not supposed to touch dead bodies, all right, because they're ministering unto the living Elohim, and dead bodies defile them. All right, so let's go back to verse 26. It says, after he is cleansed, they shall reckon to him 7 days. In the day that he goes into the sanctuary to the inner court to minister in the sanctuary, he shall offer his sin offering, says the Adon Yahweh. It shall be to them for an inheritance. I am their inheritance, and you shall give them no possession in Israel. I am their possession. They shall eat the grain offering and the sin offering and the guilt offering, and every dedicated thing in Israel shall be theirs. Now, if you remember previously, while we read about the Levitical priesthood, all 12 tribes of Israel, every last one of them had to carve out a piece of land for the Levitical priests so that they could minister unto them, right? And keep them in check. They were to teach the people what is holy and what is profane, what they are called to do, right? How they are to conduct themselves, and what they are not to do. The priests were there to check every last tribe, all right? And so this is going back to that. And so as we have that in mind, now we can walk into chapter 45, where it talks about the holy district, right? And every district for every tribe is to have a district for the priesthood. But this is more so talking about the holy district within Jerusalem, right? And the portion for the prince. So I'm going to start in verse 7. It says, a portion shall be for the prince on the side and on the other side of the holy allotment and property of the city, adjacent to the holy allotment and property of the city, from the west side westward and from the east side eastward. All right. And the measurements for this portion are in the earlier parts of the reading before verse 7. Now let's read verse 9. It says, "Thus says the Adon Yahuwah, let it suffice, you officials of Israel, remove violence and destruction, and execute justice and righteousness. Take away your exactions from my people, says the Adon Yahuwah. You shall have just balances and a just ephah and a just bath," right? So he's telling them all of this stuff that you have done before, right? Having unequal scales, right? Deception, lies. He says, no, you will put all of that away from you and you will do things righteously according to what I command you to do. And then it goes through various offerings, and all of them are called to bring an offering to the prince. It says, all of the people of the land shall give this offering for the prince of Israel. It shall be that the prince's part to give burnt offerings and grain offerings and drink offerings in the feasts and in the new moons and in the Sabbaths, in all of the solemn assemblies of the house of Israel. He shall prepare the sin offering and the grain offering and the burnt offering and make peace offerings to make reconciliation for the house of Israel. And that is why many people do not believe that this is actually Messiah. They believe that this is David, if this is the millennial temple, because our Messiah was the burnt offering, all right? And like I said, he's not getting back on any cross, all right? So if this is the millennial temple, that is why people believe that this is David, right? And that it is David making these offerings unto Yahuwah on behalf of those with natural bodies during the millennial reign. That's one of the perspectives, right? If this is the millennial temple. At the very end of the chapter, you see that the Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread, this is a feast, right? The feasts continue throughout the millennial reign. Now, whether this is the temple during the millennial reign or not, we know by the book of Zechariah that the Feast of Tabernacles is definitely going to be celebrated, right? Required during the millennial reign. So is this a possibility that this is something that those with natural bodies must do during the millennial reign if this is the millennial temple? It's possible. I don't know, y'all. But one thing I know for sure is that the weekly Sabbath will be observed during the millennial reign. New moons, right? Feasts and festivals, they will be observed. How they will be observed is what is in question. Deep in Word family, that's all that I have for you today. Until tomorrow, Yah bless.